I got cystic fibrosis. See, I've got cystic fibrosis.
Hi! I honestly cannot tell you how excited I am to be filming this video right now. My name is Hannah, and I'm gonna be your Sunday Staying Salty person. Yay! Like everyone else here on Staying Salty, I have cystic fibrosis. And for my first video, I'm just gonna be telling you guys a little bit about myself. I'm 21 years old, and I thought that an interesting way to introduce myself to you guys would be to go through every year of my life and tell you one little fact, one little fun story that happened, and that's about it. On August 2nd, 1995, I was born. It was a great day for everybody. The funny thing is that I was actually born on my due date. I was a completely average weight, a completely average height, and the doctors didn't find absolutely anything wrong with me when I was born. The cystic fibrosis ended up being a surprise later.
Bit of a nasty shock for him when he found out.
My parents adopted a little baby puppy Dalmatian a little while before I was born, and when I was 1 year old, I stepped on her little tail and I kind of like broke it, and it was bent for the rest of her life, and she didn't let anyone touch her tail after that. When I was 2, my sister Olivia was born. She's my only sibling. She is an amazing sibling, and she doesn't have cystic fibrosis. Thank the Lord. The age of 3 was an interesting health year for me. I was coughing all the time, but they didn't know why, and I went to the ER like 7 times over the course of my toddlerhood because I would wake up in the middle of the night and literally not be able to breathe. But because I've never really had that much of a problem keeping weight on my body, the doctors didn't recognize that it was cystic fibrosis, and they thought I just had really severe asthma, so that's what they treated me for. When I was 4, I was walking down the stairs into this lady's basement because that's where I went to daycare, and as I'm saying it, it sounds a lot creepier than it actually is. I promise. And I ended up tripping on the last 3 stairs, and I rolled down them with my arm across my chest like that, and I broke it. When I was 5, I was finally diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. Woohoo! This only happened after we switched from the first doctor to a second doctor, and the second doctor listened to my lungs for 45 seconds and said that he just kind of had a feeling that I had cystic fibrosis. So we did the sweat test, and we found out that I had CF. Then my parents took me to Toys R Us and told me I could pick out whatever I wanted. I got a Barbie scooter. Right after my diagnosis, I also had to go to the hospital because I had gone almost 6 years without any cystic fibrosis medications, and that had taken a toll on my little lungs. So I went for my first ever hospitalization. My parents told me that I ended up bawling while I was there because I apparently just wanted a turtle so badly, so I'd be like, all I want is a turtle! And they got me a turtle too. I swear to goodness I'm not a spoiled brat. It's just like, imagine if your kid was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. Like, you'd probably buy them a scooter and a turtle too. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation runs something called the Great Strides Walk, and it's the biggest fundraiser nationally for cystic fibrosis research for the cure. And when I was 6, my family decided to start their own CF walk right in our very own town, which is really not that big. That first year they ended up raising over $20,000, and since then my family has raised over $175,000. I'm not trying to take all the credit though. Honestly, my mom and my dad are the ones who do everything. They are incredible, and I'm so lucky. When I was 7, I got sick and I had to be put on oral steroids. And some of you guys may know that steroids do interesting things to your mood sometimes. I was playing in a soccer game, and my coach, he was British, he goes, "Run, Hannah, run down the field!" And apparently I didn't want to be told what to do because I just turned around and I literally screamed, "You're not my dad!" My dad has always had more than one job, but something that he really loves to do is referee basketball and umpire baseball. When I was 8, my dad got his first opportunity to be one of the umpires in the College World Series, which is basically the biggest tournament for college baseball. So it was pretty cool. So my whole family piled in a van, we drove all the way to Omaha, Nebraska. It was a great time. Something that I struggle with is anxiety and depression, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the first panic attack I can ever remember having was when I was 9. When I was a kid, like before I was a teenager, I had this really weird thing where I would panic and like cry if anyone talked about puberty, me liking boys, like getting older, becoming a teenager, like it all freaked me out so much. So one day my mom came downstairs and I was playing The Sims on the computer, which was totally fine. She bought me the game, I wasn't doing anything bad. And my mom just goes, "Oh, I didn't realize that game was rated for teens. You're not a teen, you're only 9. And I don't know what happened, but I literally just freaked out. I started sobbing, crying, felt so guilty, felt like such a bad kid. Yeah, I don't know, it was really weird, and that's the first panic attack I can ever remember having. When I was 10, my dad ended up taking me to a Cubs game at Wrigley Field for my birthday. The Cubs are my favorite team out of any sport, any team, anywhere in the world, and Wrigley Field is one of my favorite places ever. But what made it even more fun is that there were like rain delays on and off, so they'd play for 10 minutes, and then we'd have to like wait for a half hour, then they'd play for another 10 minutes. There were 14 innings. It was a super long game. We didn't get home until 4 in the morning. It's just a really good memory that I have with my dad, even though the Cubs still lost. This is our year though. When I was 11, I was in the 5th grade, and for the first time since I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, I had to go back to the hospital. It wasn't a super crazy admission. I just had a PICC line. I was there for 2 weeks. It was just pretty like run-of-the-mill. But this was the moment that started my cycle of going to the hospital every 6 months like clockwork, one time in the fall and one time in the spring, for the next like 8 years of my life. When I was 12, I was asked to join a travel soccer team, and the national finals for that soccer team were actually in Honolulu, Hawaii. I feel so lucky that I got to do that. Like, it was a super cool experience. I climbed a volcano, I got to scuba dive, obviously I got to play soccer against girls from all over the country. But the coolest thing was that my coaches ended up awarding me the MVP award out of my whole team, and that just really meant a lot to me as, you know, the sick kid on the team. When I was 13, I was in the 7th and 8th grade, and both of those years I decided to go out for cross country. You know, I say go out, but really like nobody gets cut from cross country. And my parents kind of forced me to, they didn't force me, they pushed me to do it so that I could keep my lungs even healthier. And even though I was a good soccer player, guys, I was not a good runner, and consistently in the 7th and 8th grade, both seasons of cross country, I would place last. I would be the last girl to finish out of all the schools, and it was just like, I felt really cool. Like, I didn't feel like a loser at all. It was fun. When I was 14, I was about to be a freshman in high school, and I auditioned for the drum line, and I ended up getting snare drum. For the next 4 years, I played snare drum in my high school's marching band, and it was so awesome. I ended up falling in love with drumming, and I still do it to this day at my college. I'm in a non-traditional drumming group. We drum on like trash cans, ladders, pots, you know, whatever. It's a great time. It's a great time. When I was 15, I entered my first relationship, and I fell very deeply in love very fast, and it was with someone that I considered to be my best friend, and it was honestly such an important and life-changing experience for me. This person ended up being my rock throughout the rest of high school, and I really wouldn't be as good of a person as I am now had I not met them. When I was 16, I started to really feel the symptoms of anxiety and depression, even though I was still undiagnosed. I would have a lot of panic attacks about things related to being late, having people stare at me, disappointing people who counted on me, like my teachers and my parents, but I just didn't know what to look out for with mental health, so I unfortunately was not able to recognize my own symptoms at that time. When I was 17, my 2 best friends, their names were Alex and Eileen, they were 18 and 16 respectively, both passed away from cystic fibrosis within 2 months of each other. This was when I was a junior in high school, and it was like right at the end of junior year when I was trying to take ACTs and AP exams, and it just wasn't a good time, obviously. But this was also the turning point where cystic fibrosis became not just something I had, but very intertwined with what I consider to be my purpose in life. So whereas before I wanted to be an author when I grew up, now I want to use my skills for writing to be an author, but also to be a public speaker, to make YouTube videos, to blog about cystic fibrosis, to help other people who are chronically ill. I was on a competitive dance team from 10 to 19 years old, and when I was 18, I went to my last ever nationals competition, and I ended up playing second in the whole country for my tap solo. I definitely cried when that happened. When I was 19, I came to the University of Michigan for college, where I still am. I'm an English major and I'm going to apply for the creative writing sub-concentration at my school. When I was 20, so basically the last half of my freshman year and the entirety of my sophomore year, my health really started to take a turn. Whether it was not getting enough sleep because I was studying and, you know, you're really busy in college, whether my mom and dad were better at taking care of me than I am at taking care of myself, whether I'm just surrounded by college kids who don't wash their hands and I get sick a lot, whatever the reason is, I started to get sick a lot more frequently and a lot more severely every time. When I came to college, my lung function was at a baseline of around 80%. Now it goes anywhere from like 45, 50 to 80%, usually sticking around 65. It's really hard for me to tell people my average lung function because it's always changing. I no longer go to the hospital every 6 months like I started to in the 5th grade. Now I go every 2 months and it kind of sucks. But it's cool, you know, I'm a positive person, it's all good. I also stopped getting PICC lines, not that you can see my scars, and I got a port. So I have a little bubble inside my chest so that I can easily get IV antibiotics whenever I need them. And I'm just taking it all in stride. This is also the time when my mental health got a lot worse, but it's also the time when it was diagnosed. A social worker at my hospital recognized my signs, diagnosed me, got me on an appropriate dosage of the right medication, and I have my first therapy appointment in less than a month. And that brings us to 21, which is how old I am now. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. Please leave a comment below and tell me so that I can thank you, because thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, guys. There's gonna be a new video every single day from someone with cystic fibrosis. Like, that's so cool. So just click the red button below so that you don't miss out. It's totally free. It just notifies you when we upload. And one last thing, I also have my own channel here on YouTube. It's called Hannah Breathes, and it's all about college, cystic fibrosis, mental health, exercise, diet. Please feel free to go over there, watch some videos, and subscribe. I post on there every Saturday, so the day before you see me on Staying Salty, you can see me on Hannah Breathes. And that's all I got for you guys today. So enjoy another new week of Staying Salty starting tomorrow, and I will see you all next Sunday. Bye.